Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'll be talking about the 2024 Iowa caucuses. It's going to be a big day in American politics tonight. We have obviously the 2024 Republican Iowa presidential caucuses. Democrats aren't having any, so we are limited to Republican results. But interesting nonetheless. The last time we had an Iowa caucus was 2020. I remember where I was when the results, were expected to come in, and they were ultimately delayed because the Democrats had a problem with their app. We did get Republican results. Trump got like 80-90% of the vote, I remember. But the interesting primary, the interesting caucus, rather, the Democrats took their time with the results. So, the last Iowa caucuses were a little disorganized, took some time for us to realize what was going on, kind of a mess. Hopefully this will be different. Hopefully we can get results quicker and it's much more efficient. We'll know the winner by 9-10 o'clock or whatever. But yeah, so I'll be offering some predictions and just insight for these Iowa caucuses tonight. I think I'm a little disappointed that they haven't been getting as much attention as they maybe could have been, or as they could have gotten. Because the 2024 GOP primary race is a lot less competitive than the 2016 GOP, 2020 Democrats, even 2016 Democrats as well. And so there isn't as much at stake here as there was in previous years. Like in 2016, Trump and Cruz finished like within a few points, I think within a point of each other in Iowa. And in 2024, barring something insane from happening, I don't think we're going to see that. So what we're really looking at here is a battle for second place, and how close can Haley or DeSantis come to Trump. So Iowa to me is interesting, but it's been more interesting in other years. And another element of this is that I personally don't like caucuses. I know they've been a hallmark of the American political system for years, or for more than for many years, from well before I was born. But they're like, I was going to talk about this whenever I talk about caucuses in general, because a lot of people don't know about caucuses and how they're different. And essentially, like when you vote in a primary election or general election, you just go to a ballot box and you cast your vote. Maybe you wait in line, but at worst, it's a 35, 40-minute process. And that's generous. Like, usually it does not take that long, and it's very convenient. I overall like how American voting works. Obviously, there are some areas of the country where it takes too long to vote, and the solution to that is, build more drop boxes and ballot boxes and polling locations, and open more, polling locations, register more in other places. That's the solution. But assuming you have an adequate number of polling locations in a region, it's pretty good. You can also mail in your ballot and whatnot. So that's why, primary general elections usually pretty convenient. Now, a caucus, you go into a high school gym or something, whatever is in your precinct, and you go talk to other people. You have to advocate for your candidate, and you try to stand. And your goal is to try to get other people to stand in your corner of the room. And so there'll be a group of people with a Trump sign or a Haley sign or whatnot, and they'll try to get people to stand in their corner, and then eventually they'll get tallies. But the problem is that takes, like, again, to caucus, it's an evening long endeavor, and you really have to be dedicated. So it doesn't really encourage turnout, and for people who don't have the whole evening to do that, they might not necessarily vote at as high rates. So I don't like caucuses. I think it's better just do normal elections. But whatever, we're almost 4 minutes into the video, and I haven't given a prediction yet. So let's talk about it. So Donald Trump's going to win. I have no problem saying that at the beginning. I'm wary of jinxing things. I don't like to make confident predictions that I can't back up. But this is a done deal. Donald Trump will win the majority of delegates in these Iowa caucuses tonight. He'll do it convincingly, and I think that no matter how close the margin is, he'll call it a victory because he's going to win. He's polling at 53%. Haley's in second. She's at 19%, which is pretty impressive. She started off a lot lower here. She was at 4% in the summer, so she's more than quadrupled her share of the vote. So she's done a good job. But Trump's still going to win, and obviously I understand the notion that maybe it's going to be close. Maybe there's going to be some upset here. Because Iowa has yielded weird results in the past. Trump lost Iowa in 2016 to Ted Cruz, so he is technically 0-1 in contested primaries here, but he's going to win. Now, the question to me is, does he crack 50? And in the Seltzer poll, he was at 48, and I think Haley was at 20. And then DeSantis was somewhere behind that at like 16 or 17 or 18. But overall, I'm pretty convinced that Trump is probably going to crack 50. Now, a lot of it comes down because I think there's a snowstorm in Iowa. I haven't looked at the map of it because I, quite frankly, don't really know how accurate the weather reports are going to be. But it's going to be in some places. If it's more in the urban areas like Des Moines, we're probably going to see that have a negative effect for Haley and benefit Trump. But if it's in the rural areas, it's probably going to benefit Haley and harm Trump. So a lot of it's snowstorm dependent. Obviously, that's why another reason why caucuses aren't that great. You should be able to mail in your vote beforehand, like if there's a snowstorm in the middle of January in Iowa. But again, I would expect, no matter what the weather is, no matter what the local, kind of dynamics are, Trump's probably going to crack 50. And so when you look at the polling that we have here, here's the Seltzer poll I was mentioning, right? Like Trump was at 48 with 3% undecided. I bet a lot of the Ramaswamy people, break for Trump because Ramaswamy peaked early. He was, he was at 7% in the summer. He's lost half a point when he should be consolidating his support and gaining as we get close to election day. So he doesn't have momentum. He got a bit of a boost early on in the campaign season after his first debate performance, but I just really think that his people are going to say, look, if I like Ramaswamy, I'm going to like Trump. I'm going to vote for Trump anyways. I think DeSantis' people are going to, to an extent, break for Haley. Obviously, he'll get, I think, 12 to 15% of the vote no matter what happens, but I think a lot of his people are going to break for Haley, and I think that's why Haley's probably going to get maybe a quarter of the vote, which is not a bad showing, by the way. But what's going to happen is I think Ramaswamy is going to burn or crash and burn. I think he gets like 5%, and I think Trump gets like 50 or 51. I think Haley gets maybe 23 or 24. DeSantis gets 14 or 15. Chris Christie, I know he's still on the ballot in New Hampshire. I think that you can still caucus for him in Iowa, even though he did drop out. But regardless of what happens with him, I expect most of the people to break for Haley. Christie was kind of, occupying the lane of the anti-Trump moderate, who is also getting a lot of attention from Democrats who really don't like Trump. And the problem with that is, Haley can absorb some of that, but you can't absorb the Democrats because Haley, like Christie was getting that attention because he's been critical of Trump. Haley has kind of avoided Trump at all costs. So, the Christie bump for Haley, I think is real, but it doesn't benefit her the way I think some people think. I think people look at this, at Christie's numbers and they say, all right, just add it to Haley, now that he's dropped out. I don't think that's how it works. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. But either way, Haley will get second. That's my second bold prediction. My first, obviously, that Trump going to win is probably like, he'll probably get over 50% of the vote. Haley, I think, will get second because DeSantis really not peaking at the right time. I personally thought that he was always overvalued as a candidate. I said back in January 2023 or even after the midterms that he was never going to win the primary, but I could not have predicted how far he'd fall. I thought he'd at least be a runner-up. But I think he gets third in Iowa. I think that he doesn't suspend his campaign yet, just because I feel like if DeSantis really wanted to get out of the race, he would have done it before Iowa. But unless he somehow gets fourth place, then he probably stays in at least for another state or two. So, like I said, Haley, but again, Haley will finish a decent amount ahead of him. It won't be like she gets 21, he gets 20. I think she gets 23 or 24, and he gets 15. And again, that's a problem for DeSantis because his only path in the beginning was I'm the electable alternative to Trump. And to win that, to win the primary, you not only have to win over Trump supporters who care about electability, but win over moderate voters who don't like Trump, who want the Republicans to moderate and, maybe by proxy win the 2024 general election. But, there are moderate voters in the suburbs who do care more about issues of, social issues and just seeing a more moderate GOP than electability. So, right, if that makes sense, those voters who are arguing, were already breaking for Haley and Christie, they're not going to come for DeSantis, and that was his only path. So that's why I think he gets third. I think Iowa's also really an interesting state because the GOP electorate there is mostly rural. Iowa's, again, mostly a rural state. It's votes Republican consistently, but Republicans still don't really do that well in the cities like Des Moines. There are some suburban, counties where Republicans still have a decent number of registered voters, but, those are kind of outside of Des Moines, and for the most part, I think those voters are going to break for Haley. So if we're doing kind of a map prediction, I'm not going to pretend to know enough about Iowa county by county election data. I can probably name a few. I can probably give you a bit of surface level analysis by region, but I can't do county by county. I'd be lying to myself if I showed you a map and was like, yeah, this is what's going to happen, because why would I feign confidence? But Haley will probably win a county or two. Maybe like it's risky because a lot of it comes down to vote splits. I think Haley will at least win a good amount of townships in the suburbs, right? Like outside Des Moines in Dallas County, which is, I think, the most wealthy suburban county in the state. I think she'll win a good amount of townships. She might win the county as a whole. She might also win Johnston County, which I think is the most liberal county in the state, just because, I don't know, she's more moderate, and that tends to happen in GOP primaries where the more moderate candidate always wins, like the more liberal county. And so maybe she wins one or two counties, but Trump's going to get 50% of the vote. He's going to win. He's going to claim it as a victory, and I think Ramaswamy could see this as an exit point if he crashes and burns like I'm predicting him to. I think because Trump's starting to go after him on his social media account on Truth Social, I think that could be a problem. I also think that Haley, Haley might actually not want Ramaswamy to drop out because the votes he's getting are probably going to be more Trumpy than Haley-ish, right? Like if Ramaswamy leaves the race, I think his voters break way more for Trump than they do for Haley. So I wonder if Nikki Haley is hoping for a good Vivek Ramaswamy performance. And again, if right now I'm predicting Ramaswamy to get 5.5% of the vote. If he gets 10 and I'm totally wrong, that hurts Trump because again, his voters are more Trumpy than they are Haley or whatnot. So again, the more Ramaswamy sees his vote share increase, the more Trump's decreases, and I think Haley knows that. So the best case scenario for Haley is that Trump gets 45 or something and Ramaswamy does well. She consolidates the Christie vote, and that a bunch of the DeSantis people, break late for her so that she can maybe get 30%. And again, there have been some polls that are pretty good for her. Obviously, in this Seltzer poll, which I think is probably the best, it's kind of the gold standard here. She's at 20%, but she's been surging as of late, right? Like when you go back just to polls from the summer, like August, she was in the mid to low single digits, and she's up to 20s now, pretty high teens. 20s now pretty consistently. Seltzer actually, showed her gaining momentum, which I think is a good sign because she was at 16% in December. Now she's at 20%. So, she has momentum pretty clearly. And not that endorsements matter, but I think she's gotten a couple endorsements from the last time we checked. But again, DeSantis is the majority of endorsements from both these chambers, and we know he's not winning. So, I guess those are my three main predictions. The first is that Trump gets more than 50% of the vote. My second is that Ramaswamy crashes and burns, and my third is that Haley gets third place or gets second place. So, just to recap here, I think my final stand is going to be Trump, then a big gap, Haley in second. DeSantis will still come in third, but he'll finish a few points, behind Haley. Then at fourth, you've got Ramaswamy, and beyond that, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, Chris Christie's dropped out. I think Asa Hutchinson's still in the race. But he will probably get less than Chris Christie because Christie was polling better than, Christie, I think was polling better than him. Hutchinson, he's at 1%. Christie wasn't in this poll, but, Christie was getting more in all the polls beforehand because Hutchinson's been at 0 for all these polls, 1% maybe in a good poll. So he'll probably outperform Christie, and then he'll probably drop out. I'd be shocked if he stays in the race after this. That's kind of no point. But yeah, so that's really, those are my predictions. I think New Hampshire's going to be more interesting because I think Haley's got a much better shot there than she does in Iowa, but we'll see. If Trump doesn't get 50, if he gets 45 and Haley can get 20, high 20s, maybe 30, then it becomes interesting, but I'm assuming that doesn't happen. I'm assuming Trump wins by a lot, and I'm assuming that Republicans start to coalesce behind him. Again, Doug Burgum endorsed Trump just a few nights ago, so I think it's starting to happen already. And yeah, so we'll see if I'm right or wrong. Caucuses are hard to predict, but I do feel confident that Trump will win and get 50% of the vote. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you all in the next one after Iowa. I'll talk about the results then. So subscribe so you don't miss it, and leave a like if you have not done so already. Like I said, I'll see you all in the next one.